Every time someone brings up how low birth rates are right now and how rapidly they are dropping, the first thing that comes to my mind is always, thank God. If anything, I think we can go lower. Let's all start a how low can you go challenge.
The US government is panicking because the birth rate is falling, which means that GDP could be falling, which means that billionaires could make less money.
So they want women to have more babies.
So they are trying everything they can, except lower prices, make better healthcare, allow people to work from home, or making childcare cheaper.
Here are some of their ideas.
1, they propose giving $5,000 cash to every woman who gives birth. 2, they want to educate women on their cycles so they can better understand how to have children. And 3, they want to reserve about a third of all Fulbright scholarships for people who are married or who have children. Multiple countries have tried to deal with their declining birth rates in highly similar ways, and they failed for decades. One-time payments do not work.
And don't get mad at me for mentioning working from home earlier.
Multiple studies have shown that working from home helped working mothers reach the highest proportion of the labor force ever, and it went back down when they forced people to go back. We're not learning from all of the other nations who've tried the exact same things and failed. They've just made the D3 list, a podcast about dumb, desperate, and diabolical business decisions.
You know how there's a declining birth rate in both America and Japan, right? Like, I'm sure both countries are stressed out about it because America's already like, oh my goodness, we're declining in birth rate. What do? We need to do something, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sure the government of Japan is probably doing the same thing. But what I'm laughing at is different tactics being used trying to solve the problem at hand. And the fact is neither of them are doing anything to really solve the issue. But America's like, oh my goodness, there's a decline in birth rate. We need to do something, yada, yada, yada. What do? We need more people, more workers. What are we going to do? Like, I got it. We're gonna remove women's rights. Like, we're gonna force these women to have these babies whether they want it or not. We don't care who lives or dies. It is not funny, but like, Japan's probably like, word, we see you, we heard the idea, but we have something better. We're gonna make baby anime. We're gonna release them bitches back to back to back to back. We're gonna give these hoes so much baby fever, they're gonna think that it was themselves that decided to have a baby. Like, we're just releasing animes back to back with little kids as the main characters. We're gonna have these women gushing and blushing and fiending for a child. Because they did it. They really did that, bro. And you know, we could have came up with better solutions, but yeah. Okay, Japan.
This map should be a wake-up call. The people in the orangish countries aren't replacing themselves. They have sub-replacement birth rates. You probably already saw it on the map, but there is only one region in the globe that will have net population growth. 6 countries are going to be responsible for over half of all global population growth by the end of the century. 5 of those are in Africa. It's hard to exaggerate just how much that's going to scramble the geopolitical landscape by the end of the century. For example, when you think of Europe, you probably think old, wealthy nations, kind of an offsetting power block in geopolitical affairs. But Europe's population is projected to fall by 40% by the end of the century. All of Europe combined will have fewer people than the United States. And that's reflected in these lists. The only non-Asian or African country that is going to be on the list in 2100 is the US. Why is America exceptional in this regard? It's because our true superpower is immigration. We're making up for our sub-replacement birth rate by bringing in immigrants at a much higher rate than peer nations. This fact should also blow your mind. Okay, so those lists were based on dated information from China. Basically, they lied about their population statistics. We now have new data, and the current projections are that China, by the end of the century, will have about the same population as Nigeria. Think about that for a second. The way you and I have learned over the last 20, 30 years to view China as a rising global and economic powerhouse is how our children and their children will learn to view countries like Nigeria. Now, none of this is fully set in stone. In fact, the countries that right now choose to let in as many immigrants as they can are going to have a huge economic and geopolitical edge 50 years from now. Here's the thing. Our politics are wildly out of date. It is going to be bizarre to future generations to think that their parents and grandparents, us, were talking about trying to restrict the number of immigrations that were coming. It'll seem so obviously idiotic to them. Consider yourself a patriot or a nationalist. The best thing you can do to keep America great for your children and children's children is to welcome more immigrants, especially from Africa.
Hey, we really want people to have babies, so we're gonna give you $5,000 if you have one. Okay, cool. So if I send you a positive pregnancy test, you just send me $5,000? Well, no, you have to have a baby. What do you mean? There's a fetus right here. We're not paying you yet. The fetus isn't a baby. Yeah, we've been saying that. We've been saying that.
Hang on, you're telling me that we just hit a record low birth rate and birth rates are expected to continue to decline, but still major baby corporations' revenue is at an all-time high and is expected to continue to rise. There is girl math and boy math. Well, this is political lobbying. It's totally fine math. In today's video, we'll dive into 3 major players in the baby industry: big diaper, big formula, and car seats, to see which tactics they're using to increase profits while birth rates decrease. While younger generations of parents face scrutiny being called selfish by the Pope and by Fox News, while millennial parents are being told they're eating too much avocado toast and that's why we can't afford the down payment of a house and more children, corporate profits drove over 50% of inflation during the second and third quarter of 2023. But no, it's the avocado toast that we're eating. First up, big diaper. How is the diaper industry expecting to continue a 6.65 projected annual growth amongst plummeting birth rates? These tactics are genius and infuriating, by the way. So first tactic that Big Diaper used, sponsored doctors that were willing to say things that would double or triple America's potty training age over the last half century. That's right, globally, 50% of children are potty trained by the age of 12 months old. Our doctors in America don't even recommend we start potty training our kids until they're 2 or 3 years old, which all stems back to programs like Pampers Institute that sponsored research studies that would essentially find the results that would increase the diaper company's bottom line. See on this graph here, America's potty training age. The X is when disposable diapers came out to the market. Megaphone is when that doctor announced that it would actually traumatize your children if you tried to start potty training them earlier than 2 or 3 years old. So they had to make bigger diapers in bigger sizes, which cost parents more money. What they conveniently left out that the rest of the world is using is called elimination communication, something I had never even heard of until we deep dove this on this app, which isn't exactly potty training, but it is getting your kids out of diapers way sooner by learning their cues and getting on their time schedule. How else do you increase profits? And that's price. Diaper prices have increased 184% in the last 2 years. Isn't the free market taking care of that? No, because our market has been so heavily consolidated that 2 companies, Kimberly-Clark and Procter & Gamble, own 80% of the diaper industry, with the store brands owning the other 20% of the market. Diaper industry is also one of the #1 users of the term called shrinkflation, which essentially kept the diaper prices the same on the list price, but drastically decreased the number of diapers being sold. So the unit prices skyrocketed, but the list price on the shelf stayed the same. While the price of the ingredients that go into making diapers has drastically decreased since COVID, the price of diapers are staying the same because there's no free market to take care of that, because in the 90s, Kimberly-Clark and Procter & Gamble got together and essentially sued and price gouged the rest of their competitors out of the industry. Next up, #2, we got the baby formula industry. Wondering how they are going from $45 million industry in 2024 to a $80 million industry by 2029. So we're gonna double, huh? And there's a record low birth rate that's expected to continue to plummet, right? Gosh, you guys aren't ready for this one. Specifically, Nestle has been under fire for their tactics on how to expand revenues to create an artificial need for formula in countries that are low and middle income. You see, they had a problem when they entered into these low and middle income countries. 2 reasons: only 1 in 5 women could not breastfeed. So most moms were breastfeeding their kids for free with sterile breast milk, and also the formula costs over half of the family income. So Nestle dressed their sales team up as nurses and sent them into hospitals and gave these babies free formula samples. Well, see, if you start feeding your baby formula, the mother's milk then dries out and they're no longer able to feed their baby once they leave the hospital or afford the formula and still feed the rest of their family, which led to 10.9 million excess infant deaths in low and middle income countries because the babies were starving to death or the formula was being mixed with dirty water and getting the kids sick. Formula companies like Nestle is under fire for lobbying against parental leave in America. Why? Because there's a strong correlation between when the mom goes back to work and when she switches to formula. Baby formula is at an all-time high price, so they're raising their profits through record high prices to consumers. and blaming it on the regulations that they're being hit with by the government after there was a huge formula shortage, causing several infants to be hospitalized. A rare bacteria was found in the formula, causing a major formula shortage in America, again, because 90% of the formula market is created by these 4 companies, including Nestle, and it's really hard to get European formula into America because there's really high tariffs on purpose to import formula in, thanks to the millions of dollars that these formula companies are throwing at our politicians. If you've been following me for a while, you know we're launching that Nestle boycott starting on July 1st, so gear up, start your research now. More on that to come. Go back and watch the videos in this playlist because they'll tell you everything you need to know on the Nestle boycott and all their tactics. And lastly, we have the car seat industry, putting profits over children's safety. Love to hear it. The main thing that Evenflo was put under fire for to increase their profits with a declining birth rate is they started marketing their big kid booster seats for lower ages and lower weights, despite their engineers saying that that was not safe. You see, since our government does not regulate businesses, we're relying on industry norms, which is really difficult with how heavily consolidated these industries have become. So these industries are creating their own tests and passing themselves on these tests. Said that they are not failing these booster seats unless the kid flies completely out of the booster seat or if the seat itself breaks in half. If you're new here, my name is Leah, and we talk about how corporate lobbying and these big corporations have destroyed parenting in America. Please like, follow, and share to help spread this message in this world, and follow along to join a community that's trying to make America not hell to raise kids in.
Yes, I am contributing to the declining birth rate, but you want to know what else I'm doing? Whatever I want. If I wanted to go take a nap right now, I could just go take a nap. Or if I wake up and decide that I'm in the mood for yoga, I can just go to yoga. Or if I decide that I want to spend my whole day reading a book, I could do that too, because I can literally do whatever I want. And I actually think that's beautiful. I love that for me.
Are you surprised? Because I'm not. I am not. Women have been telling you that they are fed up. Women have been saying this, and now the numbers reflect it. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. 46% of white women aged 15 to 50 are childless. 44% of black women the same age are childless. That's a combined same age range of 50%. For the first time in history, there are more childless, there are more childless women than women with children. Whoa. And I also saw on Twitter, on X, the reason why it's 15 is because they've compared it to like the 1800s, the 1900s, where girls were having children very, very early, which is, awful all by itself. But they had to compare it with the actual ages of when children, like women were having children before, which was a lot younger. This really got me thinking about all the factors that were causing this change. Like, what is making women decide to not have children? What's causing women to be childless? And let's go through it. Social media has a massive role to play, absolutely massive role to play. Now women are telling the secrets. There's a girl on here who writes a list of all the like madness that can happen to you during a pregnancy. It's enough to not make you want to have children without a doubt. Dating is a problem. Dating is an issue. There's something going on between men and women also. So if you are a heterosexual woman and you want to have children with a man, that is proving to be difficult. Hence why the number is also dropping. The cost of living is through the roof. So I am barely surviving myself. Me, childless me is barely surviving. And you want me to add a baby on top of that so that I can be more poor? No. And finally, society has spent so long demonizing mothers for whatever, breastfeeding in public, not being able to get back to the weight that you were before you had the child, whatever it is, women are mothers are useless for society. All this negative messaging has had enough. Women have had enough. Actually, we're not doing it anymore. This is crazy. Let me know what you guys think the factors are as to why women are choosing to be childless.
Okay, serious question. Younger millennials and Gen Z. Are we having kids?
There is nothing that would terrify the powers that be more than sharply declining birth rates. Their whole game is contingent upon babies. So if enough women went on a little bit of a baby strike, I don't know, maybe for 5-6 years, they will show up with paid maternity leave, subsidized childcare, more child tax credits. Because see, right now they're trying this stick, right? There's like, let's limit reproductive care in hopes of forcing them into pregnancies. But when that doesn't work, they're gonna have to show up with a carrot. If you know for sure that you don't think your life would be complete without having a child, by all means, don't join the strike. But if you're young or undecided, give your uterus a little picket sign. The generations of women that come after you will be forever indebted to you.
The Wall Street Journal recently came out with an article talking about the worldwide efforts to reverse the declining birth rates, and it's really interesting to look through the lens of Europe versus America. We all know that in Europe they have more socialized services like healthcare, paid paternity leave, transportation, and they also incentivize families to actually reproduce. There are tax credits, there are access to cheap loans. There was also an incentive to have zero income tax through the course of your lifetime if you choose to have children. And what they're finding, regardless of the financial incentives specifically for women to reproduce and have children, they still don't want to do it because it's more of a social choice than it is a financial choice. They also go on in the article to talk about the people that want to have children don't care about the financial incentives regardless. They will still have the children. And for people who are on the fence about having kids, the financial incentives don't encourage them to reproduce. Some of the women that were questioned and interviewed in the article talk about they wanted to finish their bachelor's degree, they wanted to own a car, they wanted to purchase a home, and then they ended up getting older and older and realizing that they don't actually want children. They like the stable life that they have built. It's a very similar concept to a lot of women deconstructing the ideas that they don't actually want to have kids. We have just been told that we want to have kids, and we have to be the ones that untangle from that. It's interesting to look at it from an American perspective as well, where in America, they aren't even incentivizing us to have children. They are just stripping our bodily autonomy away. What kind of family planning and family encouragement is that?
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe.